All righty, here we go. Wanted to go over the 12 animation principles link that's here in our module one, as well as the animation for everyone link that's here in our module one. And then finally, just kind of cover our lab that is going to be coming up. What's going to be involved in it? What do you need to do just to make sure that you're clear on what's there? All right, so first is the 12 principles of animation. We talked about them in the previous video, and this is kind of a visual representation of them. So this link here will take you to this Idea Rocket website, and this is one place that I found that actually shows all 12 principles in order that I talked about, and it kind of shows you an example of them. Whether it's a video of some sort and a drawing as well. So this is squash and stretch. And like I said, it's a very fundamental principle. It's basically just making everything move. And when it moves and interacts with something, meaning it hits something, it's got friction, it's got weight. You want to incorporate that by using the squash and stretch kind of method of things. So this drawing right here is similar to what I would like you to draw out for yourself, which is basically just a rubber ball. What type of ball is it? Is it a rubber ball that's very squishy? Is it a ball that has a little bit less give to it? Is it a bowling ball? How is it going to impact with the ground? So what you would do with this if you were drawing this out yourself on a piece of paper, you would draw a line. This is going to be your surface. This is going to be the surface that this ball is going to impact with. You could even draw another line that would represent a wall, if it's going to bounce off the wall. You would have your initial shape, at the peak of its arc at the top, and it's going to show it falling. Now, notice in the process, when it falling, you have, if you remember what I was talking about, pose to pose versus straight ahead um, animation. This is more of a straight ahead kind of look. But you would include the pose to pose with it as well. So just to get into that without getting too far in the weeds, the first pose would be this first shape here. All right. The second pose would be when it hits the ground down here the first time. Next pose is when it comes up here to the top of the arc. All right, the next pose is when it hits the ground again, and then when it comes up again, and then when it hits the ground again, and then it comes up again, and then it hits the ground. It looks like it's kind of dribbling back and forth at that point towards the end here. Like maybe it hit a wall or whatever and starting to try to bounce back. But those would be different key poses. So you would have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, at least eight different key poses. Each time, what I want you to notice is the physics of the squash and stretch. Starts off as a nice circular ball. When it hits the ground down here, notice it elongates out. One of the biggest things with squash and stretch is you want to make sure that the volume stays the same, meaning that it's still the same size ball, but because it hits the ground and it squishes this much, the top and bottom of the ball has to squish in while the sides push out. So to try to retain the same volume. That's a difficult thing to do sometimes when you're drawing this stuff out and animating things. When it bounces back up, same volume of the ball. What some people do, this is just a thing, is that they'll sometimes take the same shape if they're drawing it digitally, like say Adobe Animate. They'll take the first shape and they'll just copy it a few times in a couple of different places and have it come lower and lower because physics of a ball. If it hits something, hits the ground, it's not going to bounce up the same height as it came down. It's about half the height. So if you notice that the height of this is about almost halfway coming up here, almost halfway there, almost halfway there. So something to keep in mind. And then what they do is that they drew, and this is where the pose to pose part comes in. They or the straight ahead comes in, is where they drew what is going to be the frames in between. Notice to the distance. Distance equals speed. Distance equals speed. So the further apart that you draw each frame position, there's a little bit of speed going on there. So again, squash and stretch is going to show some elongation with that speed happening as it picks up speed, hits, comes up with speed, starts to slow itself down, and then slower movement is going to be closer together. Slower the movement, everything's going to be closer together and overlapping each other before it starts to speed up again and overlapping each other and speeds up again and then overlaps each other. That's how squash and stretch works. It's not just for a ball though. It works for everything. So whatever type of movement you're trying to create, it's just that whenever someone's illustrating squash and stretch, they use this rubber ball concept because it's the easiest thing to show. All right, let's move forward here. This is showing another version of squash and stretch. See how the letters are kind of squashing down and then popping back up. That's another principle of anticipation when it's squashing down before it pops up. That's another one that goes into anticipation, which goes into this here. So again, number two, anticipation. You see things happening and you see how they squash down, how they crouch down before they take off. That's anticipation there in that video. Where you know a movement's going to happen because you see a pre-movement happen. That's secondary movement. What we were talking about before. That's another principle, secondary movement that happens before the main movement happens within this. Staging. Now, staging is, I won't say it's weird. It's just something that is difficult to not difficult to animate, but difficult sometimes to explain. It's basically the setting at which the animation is coming through. So you see the animation is actually, these heads popping up or running back and forth between these different cubicles of an office. But it's cubicles in an office because if you've ever seen The Office as far as a TV show or seen any type of setting like that, you kind of know what this is. So you know what the setting is. That's the staging. It's like setting up the mood, setting up the environment for this animation and where this animation is going to be coming from. So that's kind of how that goes. Straight ahead versus pose to pose. If you could see this little animation right here, this is the what is called a motion guide, or I call it a motion guide. Some people call it something different, an animation guide, things like that. But essentially, what you're doing is you're drawing out your sequence on paper and kind of drawing it out in a graph or a chart where you're saying, okay, each pose is one of these different ticks going down the timeline. This is one of the different key poses. And in between those key poses, I'm going to make the poses in between. I'm going to show you and talk about how you do that pose to pose animation versus the straight ahead and make it convenient for yourself. But that animation or motion guide is really going to help you with that. We're trying to figure out what works the best. Follow through, overlapping action. This is where you see how you get the little wiggle. That's that overlapping action. And the follow through, you see how it's sped away and it kind of leaned back, a little squash and stretch, that sort of thing, little anticipation going through with that little thing. That's part of that follow through in the overlapping action. You see how some of these principles they mirror into each other or they work with each other with things. This is another version of the overlapping action. You see with our cheese Jedi here, how that swing is the start of the swing, you know, and that follow through going through that. So that's that. Ease in and ease out. This is where things will slow in or slow out or speed up or slow down based on the action that's happening. Try to simulate a little more realism with things. So looking at the example here of her raising her hand and then waving, you'll notice that it starts off slow and then speeds up as it gets towards the end of the animation sequence. It's speeding up. It's that slow in and slow out. It's just speeding up and then slowing down at certain points in time, to get anticipation and try to get somewhat realistic movements. This is an example of the arcs. You notice that his hands are moving in a particular direction, and they're never moving in a straight line. They're exaggerating movements by doing arcs within the movement with your character or with whatever your thing is. Sometimes it's better to illustrate that with an arc movement instead of a straight line, to give that sense of, again, exaggeration, sometimes the anticipation and the overlap, sometimes just the squash and stretch, in the process. Secondary action. So this is an example of secondary action. This is a good example. So the animation is it eating, the deer coming up and eating this. the ears, the tail, the eyebrows. Notice those things. Even the leaf, those are secondary actions. Those are animations that add on and enhance what the main animation sequence is doing. And you have to do each one of these things separate from each other because technically every one of these things are every piece of animation, even on a digital side, is a separate layer or a separate animation. So each ear is doing one separate thing from another. Tail is doing a separate thing. The leaf is doing a separate thing from the actual animation of the deer. Each one of those things become secondary actions. They become from the primary, they become different things that go along. Timing, making sure that things move in the proper amount of time where you have to indicate speed. So again, this goes back to the bouncing ball. That's what I show you here. Distance indicates speed. So the bigger distance from one frame to the next frame, as far as the position, is going to indicate that there's something moving faster. Less space between the frames, as far as the movement and positioning. Now that thing is moving slower at that point. So that's how that works with the timing. You just got to create that timing accordingly. Exaggeration goes into the squash and stretch idea, as well as some anticipation and everything. You see what it's doing. That's very exaggerated. Even looking at the faces of the people, that's kind of the exaggeration thing going on there with that. Kind of goofy. Love cartoons. Solid drawing, and this is a matter of being consistent with your drawing. These lines that they created with this character. So this is different characters they're creating, probably for the same series. It's probably the same person, but they're wearing different outfits and being in different outfits or whatever. They start with a basic drawing shape, and then they start adding clothes and facial hair and that sort of thing to the character. But notice with these lines here, it's keeping everything in the same balance. Everything is along the same lines. Nothing is ever over exaggerated or sitting in the wrong position. You have to create this in order to draw your characters. Now, intro to animation, we go over this extensively with this one. For what we do here in this web animation, we're not going to have to go this deep down the rabbit hole. But again, you need to know these things. And we're going to emphasize this over and over again every time in every one of the animation classes, two-dimensional and three-dimensional, just so you can get this down in your head and it becomes muscle memory over time. And this is going to make you better as an artist, as an animator, overall in everything that you do. Appeal is just making things be, appealing. This is more of an artistic aesthetic. So this is something that sometimes kicks in with just the way that you create things. You're going to have your own signature style that you will develop as your own drawing style, and it's going to come through, and people are going to recognize it after a while. Uh, you heard if you know Studio Ghibli has a certain way of drawing their animations, and it looks a particular way, and you have to be able to draw in that particular aesthetic in order to work for them. You have other studios, DreamWorks, Pixar, Disney, animation studios. All of them have a particular way that they push out their product, and it looks a certain way, and it's recognizable. Even if they do try to do something completely different, it is still recognizable. A Pixar movie is a Pixar movie. I don't care what the movie is, you know what a Pixar movie looks like. So it's that kind of thing that appeal goes into it, just that aesthetic look. All right. So with that all being explained twice over now, again, this is the link here to kind of refer back to whenever you need to review these principles of animation. This animation for everyone. This link just keeps me from having to link you to the YouTube video and the series of them. This gentleman, I forget what his name is that fast without looking at it. Hold on a second. I forget this guy's name, but he is a great animator, and he has this whole series of videos on YouTube. And I'm not trying to play them right now because that would just eat up too much time. I'm just trying to get one of them to finish processing on my slow computer. See, when I'm recording class and then having this other stuff up and running, it just takes too long. Alex Grigg, that's his name. I wanted to say something else, but Alex Grigg is the name of this gentleman. This is his website that has his portfolio and things like that on it, and he sells his own animation course as a master class if you feel like spending the money to go through it. It's actually very, very good. But he has a series of videos on YouTube, and this is the list of them. This is not even all of them. This just gets you to the web the page, and once you get to one video, you can go and subscribe to his full page, and it goes through a lot of things with animation. He posts a lot of different things up, whether it be little shorts or home full length videos. Most of the videos are not that long, but they are entertaining enough and interesting enough that it'll keep you in. If you want to go down this road of being an animator, the first thing you got to do is learn to be a 2D animator. You can't even touch 3D animation until you learn 2D animation. So intro to animation, 2D character animation, and 2D animation, and this web animation class goes into two-dimensional web animation. Learn, learn, learn. This may not be what you're totally interested in and wanting to do, but go through here and learn as much as you can. You'll be surprised how this stuff will impact you and come back to you, that you will be able to use it over and over again. So it's a lot of stuff here. Use it. This one video right here, there's no bouncing balls, just talks about instead of doing that bouncing ball exercise to learn to squash and stretch, that he does with other things, other shapes, things. This one right here goes into the squash, the stretch, the anticipation, and the overlapping. Excuse me. This goes into the pose to pose versus the straight ahead animation. So there's a lot of stuff. This goes into the spacing with the slow in and slow out, and getting spacing and timing down. There's a lot that he will be able to teach you. Very entertaining, very simple. So utilize. You use the resources that are given to you because they are there for a purpose. Now, as far as the assessment goes, the 12 principles of animation, the lecture there that's in that PDF, everything I talked about here within these videos is going to be needed for you to pass through the assessment. There may be one or two questions where you're going to have to go and do a little bit of research and searching and looking. That's why we set the assessments up the way that is, for you to be able to get through, gain the knowledge, and pass the thing. It is not for you to just to ace and then move on. Learn, all right? Learn, research, find out, and understand, because that is very, very important. Because these things are going to be incorporated into the lab. So I'm going to bring over here. Yeah, this is the lab for animation principles. So this will be, let me click on the lab here and go to view instructions. So this is going to be the animation principles, the brief that I was explaining about before. That's what I'm showing to you right here. And I'm not going to go through every detail because I assume that everyone knows how to read. In this lab, you're going to apply the basic animation principles to simple objects, meaning that you're going to create some things, but you're also going to do some research on some stuff too, um, and create elements based on the 12 principles of animation. Um, so you're going to be identifying those principles in a couple of websites, because I want to have you go through the instructions here. In the instructions, review the different 12 principles and, make sure you know what they are, kind of a small review of them. That's part one. Number two of part one, this part right here. Choose three of the principles you think are the most important for web animation, and then write a brief explanation of why they're important based on what you find and what you research and what you know. Just want to see how your thought processes are. In the report that comes here with this, it's going to give you a space to be able to put this information in, to write this up. Or you can write it as a separate document if you want to. I do give you that leeway. Sometimes with these reports, it may look a little confusing. Am I supposed to write everything in here or not? It's a yes question. Yes, you can write everything in the report. Or the other option is to use a separate document and just go through the report and make sure that you document which question that you're answering, which thing that you're answering all the way through. And then, write up your own Word document and give that in with everything as the answers. But I'll show you what the lab report looks like. So that way it kind of prompts you to write it inside of the lab report. All right, this says visit at least 3 of the following websites. Now, here's the thing about some of these websites. They may not be, the link may not take you to where it should take you. It should take you to apple.com, but it may not be the specific page that you need to go to or look at. So you can use these as examples, or you can pick others. You just need to be 3. Find 3 websites that showcase some effective web animation in your opinion, and you're going to identify that website, and then you're going to write up why you like the animation going on in here. What is it that you like? Screenshots help. So if you know how to do screenshots and put that and attach that to the report as well, for this particular section for part 2. Part 3, this is where the work comes in. Adobe Express and Canva are fairly straight ahead, easy to understand and use. So I want to give you a chance to, on your own, look and see how those programs work. And then I want you to create 3 simple little animations, 1, 2, and 3. It gives you instructions on what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it. Use your own creativity and create 3 simple animations that for these purposes, for these 3 different purposes. So one is going to be a button or UI element that demonstrates anticipation. One is going to be the bouncing ball animation for squash and stretch. The other one is going to be a loading animation that demonstrates timing. I know in Adobe Express, all of these are available for you to try to create on your own. So you have the ability to make them. And it's just a matter of you creating it. Make the animations, export them out as GIF files so that way I can see them, and you'll attach that with the report in your submission with everything. And I'll show you the Lab 1 template in a moment. Complete all the sections of it, submit everything, and then here is the fun piece. There is a grading rubric. Make sure that you look over this grading rubric for every one of these and learn what I'm grading everything on, and see if you follow through and see if you pass on your own. See if you get a good grade of your own, with everything, and use that for your advantage. There's some helpful resources here. Most of these should work. There's a tutorial for Adobe Express, and then some other things that can help you out with learning and understanding, so you can get the lab done correctly. Usually the labs, when they're assigned, which this lab is now assigned to you, you have till the end of the week on Sunday, the next Sunday, in which to turn it in and get it done. Make sure that you get it done, because again, you can't move forward to module 2, to week 2, until you get that done. Now, does that mean that you're going to miss out on anything? No. If it takes you a little bit longer to do it, the thing you're going to miss out on is that you're going to get a 0 for that lab because you didn't turn it in on time. If you get some of it done, most of it done, a good amount of it done, but don't get all of it done by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night, turn in what you got. Get the lab report done, turn it in what you got. Send it in, give it to me, see what comes about, and then manage your time a lot better for the next one. Okay? But get the information in. Get something in put in place here. Now let me bring up, hold on. For some reason I lost it. Because that's the wrong class, Maurice. Give me a second, give me a second, give me a second. 2310, go back to the labs, go back to the report. I thought I had the report file open, but I did not have it open, so I'm trying to open it. Okay, here's the report. So every one of the reports are pretty much going to be organized the same way. For the lab reports and the project reports, you'll put your name, student ID, your date there at the top. The course should be in there correctly, so that should be no problem. You should have a space to put in, and like where it says principal name right here for part 1, just replace that with whatever principal you are doing. So just replace that text, and then answer the questions right next to it. And just write out what it is that you want to say. So for the most part, you'll have everything available to be able to put your information in right here without having to use a separate document. Just write in all the information where it says insert screenshot right here for part 2 for the different websites. If you can insert the screenshot right there. You can. You probably have to reduce the size of it to make it tiny, to make it small. If you don't want to do that, just attach it as a separate file. You can either, yeah, you can attach it as a separate file if you made the screenshots, um, and just package all that together with everything, with the report. You don't actually have to put the screenshot in there. Let's see. My animations. So this is your three different animations. Then you're going to have a section for reflection, basically answering questions of how you thought everything should have gone and that sort of deal. Now, what happens after you turn everything in? You turn in the lab, and when I'm grading the lab, I'm going to take that rubric that was in the brief. I'm going to take this rubric here that's in the brief. I am going to copy and paste it over here into the lab report, and I'm going to grade everything, and then you'll get a final grade at the end. And that will be the grade that you get for that lab. And it'll be sent back to you as part of the feedback in the uh, submission section. So once you submit everything, there's going to be a feedback that you'll get when you submit. That feedback will have the lab report attached to it that will show you how I graded everything, and any comments that I added, I'll have the comments added in there. If it seems like the zip file that you're supposed to attach here and submit in here is too big to be added, like for some reason it won't let you add the attachment in here because it's too big, the file size is too large or something. If you have a Dropbox account, if you have a Google Drive account, a OneDrive account, something like that, make a folder. In that folder, just call it, project submissions or something like that. Name the zip file like it's supposed to be according to the brief. Name that zip file, zip it up, and then share that link here. Just just right click onto the zip file, say share the link. You'll get a link, and then you just copy and paste that link right inside of here. And then that will be your submission. I will get everything that way. Again, you have 3 attempts to get this turned in. Turn everything in, submit it by the due date. Once the due date has passed, you will not be able to submit it any longer, anything any longer. So make sure that you have something in there before the due date, and everything's good. This due date is the 25th for this lab. So just by 11:59 on the 25th. So make sure you get the things turned in. All right. That's it for module 1. That's the last of these videos here. Thank you for being here again. And I'm going to say that each and every time. Glad that you are here and enjoying yourself, hopefully, with this class so far. And I will see you in the next week. Take care.